This true crime case has haunted Oklahoma for the past 4 years. Back in June 17th of 2022, Daniel Cully went missing after being dropped off at Holdenville Lake. He was in his early 30s when this happened. He was being dropped off there by his sister for a job interview. Now, Daniel was part of the Muskogee Nation, and it is no secret that Native American people go missing and not found at a higher percentage than any other two minorities or two people of any kind put together. Oklahoma ranks the highest mainland state in disappearances that go unsolved in the whole country. This happened in Holdenville, Oklahoma. Like I said, 2022, the family has reached out and asked to see if I can use this platform to help locate Daniel. This is what we know. He was supposed to be doing a job interview there for some kind of handyman position, construction type position. And when he was left there by his sister actually wanted to wait around with him because they got there before the other party did. And he said, no, it's fine. Go on. Just come pick me back up in a few hours. He would contact her, what have you. Because they were supposed to do this interview and talk a little bit, might even do some work right then and there. So she leaves. She doesn't hear from him. She comes back, and then that is quite literally the last time that anyone has reported seeing Daniel. There's been no other sightings. There's been no other communications or phone activity or social media activity, because a lot of people were quick to jump that he was an adult that ran away. There was even one post that said, if you're out there, Daniel, please, reach out to us. We love you. I don't think that's the case. I look at a lot of true crime cases, and I'm not trying to be critical here, but it does not look like he had the means to escape or to flee or to run away from home, what have you. He's a man in his early 30s. He can do what he wants. But it doesn't seem like he disappeared on his own free will. At the time that he went missing, he reportedly had a foot injury, making it kind of difficult for him to walk. He walked with a pretty noticeable limp because of this foot injury. And there's been no phone activity since. He didn't use his phone anymore. He didn't get on Facebook or anything anymore. There was just nothing. And for a young man, that's pretty, unnormal. So there's been rumors that he was trafficked. There's rumors that he was targeted because he is Native American. And we know how Native American investigations tend to go here in Oklahoma and all over the country. There's things saying that it was a hate crime. There's things that was saying it was a scam to begin with. And they did something to Daniel. It could be a situation where they're looking for young men to traffic, because we do know that Oklahoma, especially around I-40, is a huge trafficking hub for the whole world right here in Oklahoma. And that stretches all the way across I-40, and especially where I-40 and I-35 intersect. It's one of the most dangerous places in the world you can be for a woman, but also for a man too. But if you're by yourself in those areas, you always need to be paying extra attention. So we know how these cases tend to go, and that's exactly what's happened here. Is there's been no sightings, period, of him, no new information since the day that he disappeared back in June 17th, 2022. Here we are 4 years later. If you're seeing this on a day that after this post, this is in late August of 2026, and we have no new information. Now, what makes this weird is around this time, 4 other men, this was a little bit before, 4 other men that would happen to all be Native American went missing from a similar area where they were all on bicycles, and they all disappeared. There was a reported sighting of those 4 men, 2 of the 4 anyhow, the next day. But when they checked out surveillance cameras, it actually was not them. It was a misidentification. So those 4 men have also not been seen or located. I don't know enough information about them to help locate them. But it's an odd thing that all these things were happening right around the same time. So the family's asking if anybody knows anything, if anybody saw Daniel, has heard from him since, seen situations that could have happened, have any leads whatsoever, please contact the number that's listed on here. There is a Facebook page dedicated to finding Daniel. Any information, no matter how small, could be super helpful. But please don't relay it to me. Relay it to either this phone number or the Find Daniel Facebook page, the Light Horse Police as well, if you have any information of what could have happened to Daniel at Holdenville Lake. I don't know if they have drugged the lake, but that's where my first thing would go, is to drag the lake. Holdenville Lake is not massive, but there is tons and tons and tons of branches and logs and stuff in the water where a body could get hung under. That would be my first push. So if anybody's watching this that has any kind of say in that stuff, a drag the lake would not be a bad idea for Daniel or for many others that have gone missing in our area or from the surrounding areas over the last decade. There has been no luck tracking down this other party as well. All leads on that have seemed to have gone to a dead end, which is also highly suspicious, because if this was any reputable company, they'd be able to look up the number and find out who it was pretty much immediately. But that does not seem to be the case. You can follow the story on here. You know, go to that Find Daniel Facebook page. I'll put a link to that in the comments. But let's try to work together and find us, you know, one of our Oklahoman, brothers and sisters out there. Let's try to band together on this one, guys. Share it, get it around, get as many people seeing his face as possible. We have officially found the Yeti and actually spoken to the Yeti of the Himalayan mountains. Now, I did not know this, but I was actually just watching this episode on the History Channel, and they just casually mentioned this information, so I had to look it up and do a deep dive of my own. And sure enough, we've actually known this since the 1960s, what the Yeti is, where it lives, everything about it. And it's not like what we imagined with it being a Bigfoot-like creature. It is something completely different. And what it is just the local residents that live high up in the Himalayan mountains. Now, you might be thinking, they can't be a big, hairy creature that walks around barefooted and everything else. Yes, they can. Okay, so the people that live at the very upper layers of the Himalayan mountains that just live there permanently year-round, their bodies have quite literally adapted differently than ours. This is documented that they have feet deformations where their feet are enlarged, their skin on them is extremely thick, and it allows them to walk barefoot through the snow for an unlimited amount of times. Like, there's no downsides to them for walking barefoot through the snow. They don't get frostbite the way we do. Now, this is not healthy for them. This is essentially causing a lot of joint pains and a lot of different issues in their body, because their bodies are essentially growing these feet deformations to withstand the frostbite. So their toes are curling up, the skin is getting extremely thick and calloused, even at an early age. Their body is pushing all the blood to their feet, essentially, so this causes problems elsewhere in their bodies. So it's not like a healthy adaptation. It is very bad. But we knew about this in 1965. There's an expedition in the Himalayan mountains where they were trying to find the Yeti, and they were following these footprints that they found in the snow, and they're like, oh my gosh, this is Yeti footprints. And they follow these footprints in the snow, and then they get out there in the middle of nowhere, and there's just a dude. He's standing there. And from a distance, when everything is covered in snow, they have noticed that there is a phenomenon that at a distance, everything looks much bigger. And this is where the mistaken identity of everybody saying that Yeti's between 7 and 10 foot tall. When everything's just solid white, anything that's there pops, and it makes everything look very big. And then these people, to stay warm, they wear hides and furs. And so from a distance, they do look like a big furry human. And then you go over there and you see the footprints, and you're like, oh my gosh, it's a big great ape. It's just them walking around barefoot. And this is a photo of the guy's foot that I showed earlier. And like, this is some of the wild deformation. Like, they can't even wear shoes. Many of them cannot physically wear shoes. And they consider wearing shoes extremely formal and ceremonial. So they don't think it's like a normal thing to wear shoes. So the kids, the adults, everybody just goes around barefoot all the time. And I hate to make this like comparison, but it's almost like they have like hobbit foot. And I'm not saying there's not Bigfoot and Yetis and stuff out there that are the way we think of them, like Sasquatch. If you've watched my videos, you know that I firmly believe in them. But at least in this case, we know what the mistaken identity of the Yeti is. And, you know, this is kind of wild when you think about it. Gorillas weren't officially scientifically recognized as a real species until 1847. That means that George Washington, the founder of our country, did not know gorillas existed. He also didn't know dinosaurs existed. That's how much science has came along in just the last couple hundred years. So if you would have told somebody about dinosaurs, 700, in the 1700s, they'd be like, what are you talking about? Are you talking about dragons? Because they believed in dragons, and that's probably what they were doing, is finding, dinosaur fossils and bones. And then, they didn't know gorillas existed. They thought that was a fairy tale or like the story of a monster, because there were stories of gorillas that date back thousands of years, and just no one believed those stories either. Just like how there's Sasquatch stories today, and no one believes them. So let's move a little bit more east over into China, where the Himalayan mountains do run through all the way over there. In China, the Chinese officials are way more open-minded to it than our U.S. officials are. Chinese officials have actually said, yeah, absolutely, there's what's called Yemen that live in the mountains. But Yemen does not mean like a Sasquatch, like a gorilla creature. They quite literally believe, and this is as most recently as like 2017, where Chinese forest officials were walking through the woods deep into the forest to plan out routes for pipelines and water pipes and all this other crazy stuff. And they come across a village of Yemen and have to reroute where the pipe's going to go because they don't want to disturb the village of Yemen. So what is a Yemen? A Yemen is just an uncontacted civilization of essentially like a wild man. So kind of like what we would describe as Bigfoot. if you look at Neanderthals and what they were, we know that there's more than 30 hominid species of humans. So we know that there's a ton of other species of human like us. Homo sapiens were nothing special. There's Neanderthals and everything else. We were just the ones that outsmarted and outlived and also outbred all the others. And technically what we are today is a mix of Neanderthal. Everybody, with no exceptions, has Neanderthal DNA in them. And every time I make this comment in a video, people say, African Americans don't have Neanderthal DNA. Yeah, they do. It's just a much smaller percentage than everybody else's. So Neanderthal DNA is found in everybody, to no exception. They've never found anybody in the world without Neanderthal DNA. Some people have up to 20% Neanderthal DNA in them. That's how recently humanity has still bred with Neanderthals. So Neanderthals, we've already are having to rework that whole thought of how much longer did Neanderthals live than we originally expected. Because we originally expected that the last Neanderthal took its breath 10,000 plus years ago. And now we're going, ugh. It has to be a lot closer than that if some people are still pulling 20% Neanderthal DNA. And that's essentially what Chinese officials say Yemen are, is they are still uncivilized, uncontacted groups of people that could still very well be what we would call a Neanderthal. And Neanderthal would have much hairier bodies. They would be that broader build. It would be essentially like what you would describe as Sasquatch. And they would be amazing at hiding. In fact, they actually did a test where they took a group of people that were trained. Now, they were trained, and they took them to the outskirts of China, like these really remote areas. People do not realize how big the Himalayan mountain range is, and like the countryside of China. You can walk for days, quite literally days, without running into another individual in these woods. I mean, it is some of the most remote places in the world. And they said, hey, we know we're going to drop you off in like this little area right here, and we're going to try to find you. And they couldn't find them because they were trained. Just like how a Neanderthal, especially if Neanderthals over time, if there's a pocket of them still alive somewhere, know that we are the enemy, they would be so good at hiding it's not even funny. Like so amazing at hiding that it's not even fathomable. And here's the thing. Everybody always says, why don't we find skeletons of Bigfoot and all this other stuff? We find Neanderthal skeletons all the time. And those very well could be the same skeletons that we're looking for when we think that we're finding, or we're looking for a Bigfoot skeleton, but we find that. They're one and the same, is what a lot of people are saying. They are currently reworking all these theories on Bigfoot, Sasquatch, and Neanderthals right now. It's very exciting in the scientific world, and I can't wait to see what comes out of it. If you like this and want to keep up with this, I want to talk about it more in the future. Follow our podcast. It's called Matt from Nomads. I'd love to see you over there. It's on Spotify and Apple Podcast. There's a conspiracy theory happening right before our eyes here in Oklahoma. It's live. It's happening right now. Barry Christian was running for Senate. Back in April, he went missing, and then he was later found dead in his truck. They just released the cause of death today, and it was a gunshot wound to the head, and they are ruling it a suicide. Now, I don't know about you, but I've never heard of somebody unaliving themselves while still driving, because his truck was found in the ditch. Normally, you'd pull over and park in these situations and then do it. In that case, your truck wouldn't fall into the ditch afterwards. In a remote wildlife management area that took days before anybody even noticed his truck was crashed into this deep ravine. Okay? I also don't know of anybody who wrecks the truck and then unalives themselves. And I have to say that because Facebook and TikTok censors me. I know you hate it when I say that word. But Barry Christian's running for Senate. He was last seen April 28th, and he supposedly missed a scheduled meeting that he was supposed to go to that day. I don't know what that meeting was about. I don't care what side of the fence you are on politics. I don't care if you're Republican or Democrat. To me, it doesn't matter. This is to me, this does not make sense. Nothing adds up in this case. Somebody running for Senate that had scheduled meetings, that had a clear plan for the future, unalives themselves while their truck is either still moving or they were just holding the brake with their foot, and then after they did it, they rolled off. And that doesn't make any sense. And I can't find any other situations where this happens. This does not make sense to me. Now, this happened back in April. Here we are in August, and we're just now getting this. Why did it take them 4 months to reveal the cause of death? Now, the primary election happened back in June, so a month and a half. It was June 16th, so a month and a half after he was found dead. It took them a month and a half to not say anything and then let a primary election happen. Could this have swayed somebody's opinion? I don't know. It's just, to me, it doesn't make sense that they waited 4 months to rule this. What else are they investigating that it took them 4 months to? I mean, if it was a clear-cut suicide, gunshot residue on the hand, bullet matching to the weapon. You know, it doesn't, to me, it doesn't make sense. Like to me, that's a quick forensic thing. Something else that I find extremely odd is that the news source that is reporting this has turned the comment section off. I looked on their other videos and they have the comment section turned on for literally everything else. Maybe they turn the comment section off when it's suicides and they want to be sensitive to the families. I'm not sure. But I thought that was odd as well, that like a public opinion couldn't really even be voiced on this news forum. Now, where he was found was the Sandy Sanders Wildlife Management Area. That's its real name, Sandy Sanders Wildlife Management Area. It is 30,000 acres. It is huge, and it is described. I've never been there, and I live in Oklahoma, but I've never been there. But it is described as extremely primitive. Very deep ravines, gullies everywhere, jagged rocks, sharp cliffs. Like it is just, you know, it's out there, and it is in the middle of nowhere. Now, he lived about 25 to 30 miles away from there, so it wasn't terribly far from where he lived. You'll never know what the actual inner workings of someone's mind is. I mean, I remember a long time ago, I actually was eating lunch with a group of friends that we were all sitting there at a lunch table, and one of the guys there was having a perfectly normal day, it appeared to me. And then 30 minutes after that lunch, he went home and did that to himself. And it shocked us all because we had just saw him appear perfectly normal. And so you never know what the inner workings of someone, like, to me, I'm like, how could you sit there and eat lunch knowing that that's what you're about to go do? Because it appeared to be very planned out. So you never know what the inner workings of someone's mind is, especially when someone's spiraling with depression. But we don't know that in this case. You know, to me, this is a conundrum. Maybe I'm wrong and I'm stirring the pot for absolutely no reason. But if I am wrong, it is one of the oddest suicides that I've ever heard of. And I'll watch and read and do a lot of true crime. If you've noticed, if you've been on this page, you know I do a ton of true crime, and I haven't seen one like that yet. The Dr. Pepper baby girl, you've heard her before, and you might not have realized it because you wouldn't recognize her face. But remember that song, Could You Be That Somebody by Aaliyah that came out like in 2002? Remember that little baby in the background that went, oh, in the background? That was her. That was the Dr. Baby girl. This whole video is going to be seemingly viral moments on social media or on TV that seemed like they were organic and real, but they were actually highly orchestrated. And this is just one of them. They do like to keep the money in the family, in the same little group. So when you see that girl going, Dr. Pepper, baby, it's good and nice. Doo-doo-doo. Okay, that's that baby, that goos and gaws in the background of that Aaliyah song from more than 20 years ago. Speaking of the early 2000s, in 2004, there was the most famous Super Bowl ever, and it was the Janet Jackson, Justin Timberlake wardrobe malfunction, where Justin Timberlake essentially pulls her whole boob out on live TV in front of everybody. You guys remember that? Okay, everybody kind of knew it was planned, but we didn't really get confirmation of it until a while later, because there was an 8-year lawsuit that followed this happening. So, in the song, he says, have you naked by the end of this song? And then he just pulls her whole boob out. That was orchestrated. And he did pressure her to do this. Her stylist actually said that they made perforations in their wardrobe so that part would easily tear off. But he was only supposed to tear the outer layer off, and he grabbed her bra with it, exposing her whole boob. Now, this is why he wanted to do that. So back the year before, in 2003, Britney Spears, Christina Aguilera, and Madonna on MTV did a live kiss where they all three kissed each other. And people were freaking out because this was when people were still really against anything that was like LGBTQ. And these were three women kissing on live TV. And they were the three like biggest pop icons, of their time. Justin Timberlake could not stand this because him and Britney Spears used to date, and he wanted all the attention on him. He wanted to be the star of the show. And with the new confessionals from Britney Spears, that documentary you can watch about Justin Timberlake and all the crazy stuff he did behind the scenes, because he seems like such a nice, sweet guy in person, or on TV, but in person he's not at all. This is what she said about him, is he was an extreme narcissist. And this only further proves that, because that happened in late 2003. His Super Bowl shows in early 2004, he wanted the headlines to be all about him and just look at me, look at me. Now, what you did not know is this had massive repercussions behind the scenes. So Justin Timberlake actually got off this scot-free, got no penalties, and actually it boosted his career. Janet Jackson, however, though, Viacom, the company who owns CBS was pissed because they got fined more than $500,000, which is penny change to them, but they were embarrassed. So Viacom blacklisted Janet Jackson's music from any of their TV stations, any of their radio stations. They pulled her music from major record labels and outlets. It destroyed her career. Because of this, though, MTV's relationship with the NFL and CBS was completely severed, and it's never been recovered. MTV coordinated that halftime show. Now, MTV and the NFL were unaware that this situation was going to happen. This was just like a thing that they did on their own. But MTV lost all rights to ever work with Viacom and CBS again. Now, further than that, that is why we saw all those old people halftime shows for like the next 10 years. That's why we saw Paul McCartney and Bruce Springsteen and all that stuff, is because they were terrified to have like new age pop acts that would do a lot of stuff to earn the spotlight and the limelight. So they went with like people who were, lack of better words, they were has-beens. They were people that were past their prime, because they knew that they weren't going to do these extreme stunts like this ever again. So you have them to thank for all those like old head Super Bowls that dominated mid 2000s to mid 2010s. Now, if you're part of that Facebook crowd that was on Facebook in the mid 2010s, you'll remember the Chewbacca mask lady that was so viral. You saw this lady, she bought a Chewbacca mask in Walmart and was in her car doing a Facebook Live, and all it was her is doing, all she was doing was staring at the camera, laughing hysterically. I want you to understand, like, I know how social media works. You know, we have millions of followers. I know how this works. That is not anything that can ever happen on accident. I swear to God, I promise you. Facebook will not push your video out to enough people to have that many people watch your live that quickly. Because at the time, it was the most watched Facebook Live ever, and that was the big title everybody kept saying around everywhere. But Facebook Live had only been out for a few months at that time. This was a throttle from Facebook, from Meta, to make this video go crazy viral because they wanted to encourage more people to use Facebook Live. If you go on Facebook Live right now, I don't care if you have 10 million followers, you cannot get the amount of views she did in the short amount of time she did within a matter of a few minutes. It's not going to happen. Facebook is not going to push you out to the algorithm that much. They just don't do it. So this was a big just throttle where anybody who was on Facebook at that time, Facebook essentially sent that video to you to see it, and you're going to see it right then and there if you're on Facebook at that moment. We know this. This is not like a myth or a conspiracy. Like, we know that they did this. Now, they didn't admit to it for years and years and years and years, and still they're like, well, we were just kind of playing around with the things. It wasn't really on purpose. It was. And it was believed to be orchestrated by The Ellen Show. If you guys don't know what I mean by this, she literally just turned on Facebook Live, and within minutes, like 10 million people were watching her live. It was insane. And if y'all did not realize that reality shows and like talk shows will orchestrate these like viral moments by completely ordinary people, they do. So do you guys remember in 2013, this was like one of the first like mega viral videos where this girl was twerking on the wall against her door, and her roommate opened the door and it made her fall through a coffee table that had a lit candle on it, and it lit her yoga pants on fire, and they were like freaking out, and she was panicking trying to get the fire out. It was this big thing. I mean, tens and tens of millions of views. That was all orchestrated by Jimmy Kimmel, and the girl that seemed like a complete nobody in the video was not. She was a professional stunt woman that had worked on many movies and TV shows, and she was actually wearing fire retardant clothes. So, like I said, it was orchestrated on all angles. Now, they quickly revealed that Jimmy Kimmel was behind this, but not before letting it make its viral circuit on the internet and churning in tons of money, and then also her appearing as a guest on his show. It's no big secret at all. Now, going back further, 2006, the first full year that YouTube was operating, you guys might, and you guys are going to be brokenhearted if you're a big fan of this girl, you guys might remember Lonely Girl 15. Does anybody remember this girl right here? She was everywhere when YouTube first came out. She was the most subscribed page on YouTube during its first full year of operation. And this girl was everywhere. You couldn't turn on YouTube without seeing her. Well, Lonely Girl 15 went by Bree, but her name really wasn't Bree. It was Jessica Rose, and she was actually a hired actress that they purposely looked for an actress that had not been in anything recognizable. And they used a vintage webcam just like every other teenager would have had at the time. They used no special props or microphones or anything like that. They wanted it to seem as low quality as possible and like as realistic as possible for an actual teenage girl just telling her day-to-day life blog and vlog and like her little secrets about her friends and families and all this stuff. And it was all scripted and orchestrated by a film company that was multiple film directors getting together, and what they were doing is they were experimenting with the early days of what we now know as social media, because they did not know what this was going to have in store for TV and movies and all this different stuff, knowing that just anybody at home could make their own little web series, and they wanted to see if they could truly captivate a big audience, and they did. She gained millions of followers, and they were like, oh my gosh, like they just They orchestrated this whole thing. Like, every little detail of that show, none of it was legit. She even went by a different name. The people in the shows used different names. Everything about it was fabricated. And we talked about this kind of character building before that was happening a lot in the mid-2000s, where people were making a character and sticking to it. Like Larry the Cable Guy, for example. That guy's real last name is something Whitney. He was a drama major in college. Like, he went to college for theatrics and, like, you know, plays and stuff. Like, that was a character that he cultivated and built. He doesn't have that accent in real life. That's not even his name. It's just a whole facade. And there was a lot of things like that in the early and mid 2000s that was really fooling all of us. Like, you know how, like, we laugh at old people now getting tricked by AI? That was all of us in the mid 2000s when YouTube first hit the screens. Now, this is nothing new to Hollywood. They're called showmances. It's just people that are dating or marrying each other for pure publicity and fame, and to boost each of their social medias and, you know, PR stuff. But the most recent one, the most recent one's still going on. That's Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift. But the most recent one that got busted and outed to be a pure, like, showmance, it was not real whatsoever, was Kendall Jenner and Bad Bunny. Now, Kendall Jenner, to me, is the most forgettable of all the Jenners. I still can't put her face to who this even is. But the reason why I saw this story was it was talking about Bad Bunny's side of it. And I guess there was a leak somehow to, like, an email that went out to a bunch of the team that works with Bad Bunny and Kendall Jenner back when they were dating. They dated for almost 2 years. That was essentially, like, their dating stuff was all scheduled. Like, there was not anything that was actually, like, organic and, like, romantic between them two. Like, hey, let me take you out to dinner, do all this stuff. Like, anytime they were together, it was on a schedule, and there was no time that they were together outside of the schedule. And if it wasn't on the schedule, they weren't spending that time together. Like, it was not just a series of, like, oh, we're both busy people, so we have to schedule dates or schedule whatever. No, it was a very much like, hey, we're going to go out to eat at this restaurant. Make sure that this gets leaked to the paparazzi so they can take pictures of us together and stuff like that. Like, it was all purely business. Like, that was all it was. Once this got outed, they pretty much both just went their separate ways. They said it was for different reasons, but, like, it was, like, everybody knows that's exactly why. Now, the reason why I said the Taylor Swift, Travis Kelce thing is I think we would all be dumb to believe that. Nothing about that relationship makes any kind of sense. And I'm not just being a hater. I'm just being realistic here. A lot of people go, oh my God, they just got married. Yeah, and it also raked in almost $30 million in profit. Now, granted, they did give that profit to charity, which for rich people is a way to get out of taxes. So once again, that marriage they did let them both essentially save millions and millions of dollars in tax money. Okay, if you want to be real about this. It caused the taxpayers of New York City tons of money. I know that they paid for the permits, but they did not pay for the security police force. If you want to look at the science behind why I'm saying that this is probably a showmance, I'm not saying it definitely is. I'm just saying it's got all the appearances of a showmance. You know, if it looks like a duck, sounds like a duck. So the NFL was actually going on a pretty downward spiral in views, and they still kind of are. NFL views have never been worse as they are in the last few years, and every chart will try to project that differently. It's just the truth. And with this, they were trying to figure out how they could get women to watch the NFL. So what they did is, because, like, the new age man, and I'm sorry, fellas, I'm telling you, this is just psychology. This is just real stuff that I've looked at. The modern man is less likely to leave his wife / girlfriend to watch a football game with the boys and crack open some cold ones than the average man was 15, 20 years ago. The modern man tends to be like, if the wife says, no, don't watch football, do this with me, the modern man tends to listen. So this is reflected in NFL viewership. It is plummeting. So they're like, how can we get the women to want to watch it too? And then all of a sudden, that's when Taylor Swift and the whole Travis Kelce thing happened. The NFL during that time saw the highest women viewership that it's ever seen. And they also saw that those women viewers were very young women. They weren't older women. They would be the very young ones that would be fans of Taylor Swift. This is all a big media thing. And if it's not, it is coincidentally just the best thing that ever happened for the NFL in recent years. And for Travis Kelce, he was essentially a nobody beforehand. I know he did great in the NFL, but there's tons of dudes that do great in the NFL. This guy has earned a different league of money than other people in the NFL. So look at the science behind it, and look at the money. Follow the money, and it has all the signs of what seems to be a showmance. So next time you're seeing what you think is a viral video or something crazy, thing that you think is just completely random and organic, ask yourself, who's influencing me? Who's gaining off this? And when you tend to start looking for those things, you'll see that most of the stuff that's being forced in your face all the time is not as organic as you think it is. Also, just to prove my point, I made up that fact about the Dr. Baby girl at the beginning there. Just to prove this point at the end of the video, to not trust everything you see on the internet at face value of what they're telling you it is. If you like these random information videos, then follow our page on Spotify and Apple Podcast. It's called Matt from Nomads, M-A-T-T from Nomads. On Facebook, TikTok, it's called Nomads Animal Encounter, and over on YouTube and Instagram, it's Nomads Animal Reserve. They found a massive cave system on the moon, and this is mind-blowing to me because our world is so science fictional. Like, think about like right now, somebody technically, in theory, could be in an astronaut suit, going to the moon, and then like just getting in one of these caves. It's pretty wild. They think these cave systems were formed because there was like lava tubes that had collapsed and made these cave systems. Yeah, the moon used to have tons of lava inside of it. And yeah, it's just mind-blowing to me to think that, you know, supposedly we landed on the moon. I don't think we did. Supposedly we landed on the moon, and there could have been like caves that could have gone down and explored. Because when I've always thought about like Jupiter and Saturn and Mars and the moon, I just think of like a big ball, right? You don't think of like there being these massive canyons like the Grand Canyon, and there being caves that you can go into and all this stuff. And like, we're supposed to believe that all that's devoid of life. I ain't buying it. This cave system was about 250 miles away from where they supposedly landed, which is the same equivalent as driving from like Oklahoma City to Dallas. Now, these pictures are just theories of what they look like because they found these by doing like different like laser scans and like thermal scans. And that's just neat because I've always heard these like rumors and conspiracies that the moon is actually like an artificial base that aliens come in and out of, and that's how they observe our Earth. And now when you see these caves and these tubes, like, are they caves and tubes, or are they landing pads and docks? Like think about the movie Star Wars when there's the Death Star, because the Death Star looks just like the moon. And think about like how those ships come and go in the trenches and the little ducts and stuff of the Death Star. Maybe that's what it is. I'm not saying it is, but I kind of am saying that's what it is. Because to me, if we really did go to the moon, why have we never gone back? A lot of people are like, there's no point to go back. Well, then why are we still studying the moon? If there's no point to go back, why do we keep studying it? And the only answer I can come to is that we never went in the first place. That's why we're not going again, because we can't. A lot of science today talks about how much dust would kick up and all this other stuff. And I think people are silly to believe that we had the capabilities to live stream that. You're talking about back then, they did not have good enough service to like get a phone call out to most places, but somehow we had perfect real-time transmission from that far away. Like, just think about that for a second. Like, really think about it. A lot of people that claim to be so smart, and they're like, oh, of course we went to the moon. Just think about the technology that it would take to... I'm not even saying that, like, we didn't have the technology to physically go to the moon. I'm saying that we could have. But that whole live streaming thing, that was so fake. Think about this right now. You can get on Facebook and live stream and, like, lose signal by going, like, over the hill on a Facebook live stream today in 2026. But you're telling me they live streamed it seamlessly with like no issues back then? And no. All my tech geeks out there know that we did not have the technology to put on that production. And that's exactly what it was, a production back then. That's it. So if we did go to the moon, I'm not saying we didn't. If we did go to the moon, I'm saying that all that live streaming stuff, all those videos you saw, that wasn't legit. There's literally no possible way. Did you know that the original moon landing footage has technically been lost? Anything you see is a copy of a copy. The original footage that they took of us going to the moon has been lost. The most important video in mankind's history, they just forgot where they put it. No one knows. That's the official answer. Go ahead, Google it. Google it. Do we know where the original moon landing footage is? The answer is no, we don't. Weirdly enough, also, the technology to go to the moon, we lost that too. Go ahead and Google that. Did we lose the technology to go to the moon? And the official answer is yes, we lost that technology. It's the biggest piece of shit you ever read. And I just went ahead and looked it up for you, okay? Because the answer is that it wasn't lost. They think that it was accidentally erased, the original footage. They think the original footage was accidentally erased. Like somebody just taped over it, like your mom taped over your wedding video with a soap opera or something. Like, that's what they think actually happened. The most important footage of human history, we just accidentally just taped over. So, like we just taped like an NFL game or something over it. That's what they say. That's it. And I think the real reason why they say that is because today with computer software, people have done it time and time and time again. They have pointed out so many flaws with modern day computer softwares, and they have analyzed copies of that footage. But here's the thing, because you can't analyze the original footage, no one can ever truly debunk it, because anything that you analyze now with modern technology, you're analyzing a copy of original footage, which is not the original file footage of the videos. And I think if we saw the original version of the video, we would see all the flaws in it. And I think that's why it had to be lost to history, because they could not afford for it to be real. A lot of people always ask me, well, why would they fake it? If you don't know a lot about history, you wouldn't know why they would fake it. And the reason would be this. We were in the Cold War, and there was something going on called the space race. And we essentially could not beat Russia in a war if it came down to it. We knew this. So we essentially had to bankrupt them by making it seem like we had some kind of space technology that they did not have. And they were terrified that we had a space laser. I'm being dead serious. That we were going to the moon to set up a space laser to beam them with laser beams. I'm being dead serious. That is a true historical fact of why we would have faked the moon landing. Because they'd already beat us with Sputnik on the satellites. It's a wild rabbit hole to go down of why we had to bankrupt them, because we could not fight them. And it bankrupted them because they spent tons and tons and tons and tons of money to try to recreate going to the moon like we did. And guess what conclusion they came to? They couldn't do it, because I don't think we did it either.